Diane Keaton, who made Difference an icon, died forever, leaving film reeling. In the midst of flowers, lights, and millions of words of sadness, Diane's daughter Dexter has spoken up for the first time, fiercely revealing hidden parts of her mother's life. "My mother loved profoundly, but always regretted. It turned out her heart had more cracks than expected. Dexter said her mother always wanted love, but chose solitude. She was always supportive of her children and smiled cheerfully in public, but in her silent chamber, she often stared back at old letters, yellowed photos, and unfulfilled love. She made a terrible accusation against Hollywood, but hardly one visited her in her latter years, when she was unwell. The world ignored my mother as if she died. How did the world-admired woman live behind those everlasting smiles? Watch the video to learn." Dexter Dean was Diane Keaton's first child, adopted in 1996 at 50, and at her career pinnacle. Hollywood was surprised because Keaton was independent, had never married, and often joked, "The longest relationship I've ever had is with my work." She realized that she missed unconditional affection and caring after years of splendor and difficult roles. In an interview after bringing Dexter home, Keaton remarked, "I don't need to give birth to be her mother. I must love her." Duke, a boy, was adopted by Keaton in 2001. "Second present of my life," she said. Having two little children at home led Keaton to modify her lifestyle as she pursued more mature jobs. The woman who remarked, "Being alone is enough to make me happy," had never experienced early mornings, bedtime stories, or school drop-offs. But Keaton soon found that parenting was more fulfilling than any film. Keaton's acquaintances said she was a conscientious mother who passionately protected her children's privacy. Although a world-class star, she never let the cameras affect Dexter's life, and Keaton wanted them to grow up without her renown. She taught her kids that peace and kindness are more valuable than fame and glory. Keaton thought she would never experience love and freedom like her children did. In her memoir, Diane Keaton said parenthood was her calling. She required only daily presence with her two children, no script or spotlight. Diane Keaton hid her two children from the public eye for years, giving Dexter and Duke a tranquil childhood away from Hollywood. She never let the media examine their life because she believed love did not need to be shown. When Keaton died on the 11th, her 30-year-old daughter Dexter broke the silence for the first time. In her continuous anguish, she revealed new details about her legendary mother, a loving, powerful, and loyal mother till her dying breath. He was raised by a loving mother who rarely spoke about her thoughts, but showed them via tiny gestures. Keaton never sought motherhood perfection. Her honesty and occasional clumsiness made Dexter and Duke love her unconditionally. She made them milk, hand-picked their school outfits, and asked, "What made you happy today?" Every day. Her simple question demonstrated that she wanted people to find delight in the little things. Keaton's death left Dexter crying for days. She couldn't read any mother-related publications. Even if they were heartfelt, she noted the tributes were outside opinions. Nobody save her and her brother understood how soft their mother was when she couldn't sleep, or how she silently sat next them when life was too difficult to talk about. Diane Keaton was famous worldwide. She was Dexter's sole safe spot and showed her how to be herself when the world demanded otherwise. Many wondered why Keaton became a single mother in her 50s. How her mother addressed that question made Dexter giggle. "I chose love, not timing." Her love for her children was unconditional and uncontrolled. Keaton didn't object or dissuade Dexter from living a private life. She just answered, "I'll always support you if that brings you peace." Even legends have dark sides, and Dexter uncovered her mother's worst secret in her study. In the midst of ancient texts, Diane would sit for hours with a cup of cold coffee and weak jazz music. A silver-ribboned leather notebook was found. The corners were torn and it smelled of perfume. She opened it, breathing life into her mother's world of hidden anguish and unsaid love. "I loved him with everything I had," started the opening page. A repeating name was underneath. While reading slowly, Dexter felt that she was entering the life of the woman who taught her freedom was most important. Diane's words trembled with constraint, not from a Hollywood icon, but from a woman who loved and feared losing. Her mother claimed that when they met on The Godfather set in 1971, he made me feel like a 25-year-old girl forever. Diane was vibrant and alive, and Pacino, the man with deep, silent eyes, invaded her life like a frigid breeze that would never warm her. Next, Dexter turned pages. During filming in New York, Diane wrote that she laughed, he gazed at her, and the world seemed to shrink to just them. Not much talking was needed. "We needed silence together," she wrote. Diane wrote long, wistful passages about how Pacino made her laugh in tight circumstances and how they drove through Los Angeles at night with Sinatra's "Fly Me to the Moon" on the radio, her feet on the dashboard, hair ruffled in the wind. "He was her dream," she wrote. Fame weakened that affection. Diane described his mysterious weeks-long disappearances, the nights she waited till daybreak with an unopened glass of wine and his unanswered calls. "I worried that calling again would make him disappear forever." He returned smiling as if he had never left, and she, delicate but proud, forgave him again. Why I always stayed is beyond me. Maybe I thought if I remained long enough he would love me like I did. The 1990 Rome section was reached by Dexter. Diane writes, "We lived in a villa overlooking the city, dining on the balcony and laughing till we sobbed. I thought fate had softened, but the writing slowed and the lines tilted. Marriage or goodbye? Silence murdered me quietly like a knife." Diane remembered seeing the city lights flicker that night, knowing everything was finished. Keaton never returned to Rome or saw Pacino after that day. After closing the diary, Dexter remembered her mother, Diane Keaton, sitting in her plaid recliner with a cup of cold tea and watching The Godfather. She still smiled faintly when Michael Corleone emerged after hundreds of viewings. An ethereal, sad smile. Seeing my hubby on film was enough. Dexter was too small to grasp her mother's distant gaze. Now she knew. A woman remembered her only true love. A small yellow document framed in glass was Diane's secret on her mother's desk, among old screenplays and family photos. Dexter asked what it was as a child, and Diane grinned. "Just a short memory I recall alone." After rummaging through her mother's stuff, Dexter found a handwritten note from Al Pacino. "I'll always adore you most." The handwriting seemed hasty and crooked, like it was scribbled quickly. One corner had a coffee stain, a subtle reminder of Diane's heartfelt past. Between Dexter and Duke as children was another photo in her mother's wallet. In a black suit, Pacino at 30 looked right. An old party's candid snapshot was not public or from a film set. It seemed pointless, so Dexter considered throwing it away. Then she stopped. Half-jokingly, her mother said he never looked right at the camera, but he made the world look at him. Perhaps she kept the photo till her final day, because it was the only way to save a piece of her heart that belonged to someone else, not out of nostalgia. Diane disappeared for a few hours on Pacino's birthday every year. She merely left a fridge note without revealing her destination. A day for the past. She returned smiling, hugging her 2 children, sharing movie stories, cooking dinner, and singing Moon River in the kitchen. He always noted that her eyes had a delicate sadness, as if she had returned from a place only she knew. In an interview, Diane was asked which man she recalled most. She grinned, tilted her head, and said, "I'll always." Her response to the interviewer's laughter and repeated question was a shrug. Some individuals stay inside you forever. Dexter finally realized why her mother, once admired by millions, raised her and Duke alone. Once, Diane loved fully, and was left alone. That may be why she spent her life loving her two adopted children unconditionally, without fear. Dexter thought Mom loved us like she was patching her heart. Keaton spent more time at home later in life. She liked cooking, gardening, and leafing through old photos. Dexter often saw Mom beaming at graduation images or Duke's first bike ride. She texted them every morning, sometimes just a few lines. Ever had water? Take a walk on a nice day. These tiny things are now her daughter's biggest absences. Dexter's final months were his saddest. She saw the woman who once shone on red carpets with a sun-like smile, now fragile and quivering as she lifted her morning tea. She said, "Sweetheart, I'm just a little tired," as if it were nothing. However, Dexter saw something more in her mother's eyes, silently burning ache. Diane Keaton never complained. She said her life was a succession of lovely mistakes, but her body betrayed her in her final years. She had to cover her scars and weakened regions when she stepped outside following her long struggle with skin cancer. Dexter saw her mother sit in front of the mirror, tenderly stroking her operated cheek, and smiling some mornings. That frail smile yet showed satisfaction in enduring agony without being consumed by it. The body was just one part. The invisible ailment Diane had previously spoken of, bulimia, her eating issue since age 25, was crueler. In her notebook, Keaton admitted to eating to fill the emptiness of a soul scared of abandonment. It was a disease and a struggle against her fear of being seen, judged, and forgotten. After her mother's death, Dexter reread those journal pages and trembled at the unsteady handwriting. Though I adored beauty, it devastated me. She never forgot her mother's insomniac nights. Diane sat by the window, peering into the small garden as yellow light streamed through the glass like memories. Dexter would sit beside her quietly, scared to talk. Her mother would grin sweetly and claim she was hearing old rolls in her head. Dexter knew she was counting her sorrows, the rolls that drained her strength, the laughs she had while her heart broke, and the men she loved but could never retain. When her sickness deteriorated, Diane didn't want others to see her vulnerable. She refused the nursing home and a full-time nurse. She merely wanted to stay in her sunny house, which she chose. "I want to leave this earth laughing, loving, and raising my children," she added. Her brother Duke and Dexter alternated pouring tea, reading the paper, and playing her favorite jazz CDs. Diane, fragile and quivering, hummed quietly, but each note contained a peaceful liberation, as if she were bidding farewell to life with sincerity, her greatest love. Dexter found a few papers in her mother's nightstand drawer in her final days. "Things I'm grateful for" notes were on them. "Breakfast with my kids, rooftop sunsets, and being loved once are enough for a lifetime. I have lived and loved," she wrote at the bottom of the last page. "Keep the rest for me light." Dexter cried after reading that. Dexter remembered well. Their Brentwood home was eerily quiet during her mother's dying months. Only her doctor, nurse, and 2 children remained with Diane Keaton, who once ruled Hollywood. Dexter saw her mother weaken, tremble from bone and joint illness, and lose her memory like a reel of film every day. Though bright, the white room felt emptier than ever. She received no flowers, co-workers visited, or even a word of concern from her legends. The absence of one person hurt Dexter more than the world's silence. Al Pacino, the name in every story, made her mother smile when she remembered the past. But in those final months, he never called, messaged, or remembered the woman who loved him wholeheartedly. In later interviews, Dexter maintained his mother never resented him. "I hated his silence for her." Finally, on October 11, 2025, the California sun rose gently, filling her favorite room's large windows with golden light. Her spectacles rested on an open journal, her teacup warm on the desk. Writing about love was her habit. The quiet was initially noticed by Dexter. Her mother sat in her armchair, Eyes closed in thought. Diane died silently, her last breath vanishing into forever. Her voice quivering, Dexter called Duke. The house, once filled with her mother's calm power, felt empty. Walls appeared to mourn, too. A brief family statement was published. Diane Keaton died quietly at home, surrounded by light, love, and her handmade world. Dexter and Duke sat in her garden for hours, talking about her daily routines, morning tea, lengthy walks, and endless notebooks of unshared thoughts. They chose candles, soothing music, and words under her tree instead of a large ceremony and paparazzi. The house shone with golden light that evening, like her lifelong warmth. Diane's death was announced soon. People announced that the Oscar-winning actress and Hollywood icon died at 79. Her visage flooded every screen, headlines grieving her lovely, honest soul. Fans posted black and white images, turtlenecks, laughter, and eyes that said more than words on social media. The little crowd outside her Brentwood house brought flowers, candles, and perfectly folded white turtlenecks. "You made us brave enough to be ourselves," read a homemade sign. Hollywood's elite cried. Former lover Al Pacino made a simple comment. "She reflected my heart quietly." She was remembered by Meryl Streep, Steve Martin, Woody Allen, Bette Midler, and Leonardo DiCaprio for her humor, brilliance, generosity, and fearlessness. The Academy released a tribute reel that night. From L.A. to Rome, Diane's smile lighted up the screen again. Red's Annie Hall, Marvin's room. Something must give. Every scene of love and loneliness intermingled, reminding the world that Diane Keaton was more than a star, a symbol of courage, resilience, and quiet, abiding love. Diane's beautiful, strong voice played over piano music. Love is the riskiest. Strangers cried in theaters worldwide. There was more than grief. Recognition was like a generation bidding goodbye to its reflection. People called her like friends at cafes. Elderly lovers silently held hands. Women of various ages paid tribute. She saw us and encouraged us to be ourselves. As a shared memory wrenched from time, that warmth would never return. Dexter wanted to say goodbye to her mother now that she was only remembering. Not the talented actress or Hollywood legend, but the lady who loved her without blood. Keaton gave her more than shelter. True love requires no conditions or recognition, she taught her. It merely needs life and giving. Dexter stated in her farewell tribute, "My mother said she would adopt me and Duke again. I want to tell her that if I could choose again, I would be her daughter even for one more day." For nearly 50 years, Diane Keaton was Hollywood's conscience. The woman who smiled through sorrow, wore grace and humor like armor, and made imperfection beautiful. Her death marked the end of an age when authenticity mattered. One must examine Diane Keaton's quiet to comprehend her. Diane, born in 1946 in Los Angeles, the city of dreams and illusions, grew up where smiles were masks and feelings were buried under beautiful dinners. Jack Hall, her father, considered discipline love. Her mother, Dorothy Diane Keaton Hall, a 1955 Miss Los Angeles, was beautiful but swiftly absorbed by motherhood. Diane learnt early in that seemingly happy environment to read between silences and that appearances can cover a broken life. Diane promised herself to never let her mother's hopes die. She dreamed of the stage, where emotions might flow, while other girls dreamed of white fences and pleasant homes. Diane was odd and unpredictable, but that defined her. She left Los Angeles for New York at 20 in 1966 to escape conformity and her Hall surname. Reclaiming her mother's name, Keaton was a rebellion and tribute. She encountered Manhattan's razor-sharp cold and infinite bleak sky. Diane slept in an old coat in a small apartment with peeling walls and a faulty heater. This city was not for cowards. Mornings in audition lines, afternoons tending tables, nights singing in smoky pubs. Tea and half a loaf of bread sometimes sustained her. She sometimes pawned shoes for rent. Despite the criticism, Diane kept writing, believing she had something to say. In the city's tumult, Diane found solace in the theater, where she was finally noticed and trusted. She understood acting was both a career and a lifestyle. Each play gave her back part of her life lost to quiet. Though difficult, New York forged Diane Keaton. She is strong, unconventional, outspoken, and honest in pain. From that frigid room, a film legend began, born from solitude, disobedience, and a firm belief that only difference saves. A calm fire burned under loneliness, everlasting, sacred. Despite starvation, rejection, and cold, Diane Keaton fashioned a career of will and artistry, turning her childhood-tormented silence into a forceful voice that inspired generations to live and tell their truths. After 2 years of suffering in New York, opportunity came in 1968. Broadway musical Hair sought a rough, unrefined face. Diane auditioned barefoot, heart racing. Stage lights seemed to call her. For the first time, she wasn't performing for acceptance. She performed for life. Diane felt 20 years of stillness disappear that night beneath the limelight, replaced by something alive, truthful, and passionate beyond words. From my perspective, Diane Keaton's life and death reveal a truth that transcends the boundaries of Hollywood or fame. It is the truth about what it means to live authentically in a world that rewards performance. She was more than an actress or a symbol of independence. She embodied the paradox of modern womanhood, powerful yet tender, self-sufficient yet quietly yearning for love. To me, her story speaks to the universal struggle between self-preservation and vulnerability, the battle between protecting one's heart and daring to live with it wide open. What strikes me most is how her daughter's revelations dismantle the illusion of glamour that has long surrounded success. Behind every award and carefully lit photograph was a woman who understood loneliness more intimately than applause. Diane Keaton's solitude was not merely a choice. It was also a consequence of the world she inhabited. Hollywood venerates individuality, but often punishes those who refuse to conform. She made difference her signature, yet that very difference isolated her. To be unique is to live without belonging, and that, I believe, was her silent wound. Yet I do not see her life as tragic. Instead, I view it as profoundly human. Keaton understood that love, in all its imperfection, remains the most radical act of courage. Her decision to adopt children in her 50s was an act of defiance against time, convention, and cynicism. She refused to let lost romance define her capacity to love. That choice, deliberate, compassionate, and fiercely independent, was her greatest statement. It said, "Love does not require permission, youth, or validation. It only requires presence." In many ways, Diane Keaton's story mirrors the quiet suffering of countless women who have given everything to their work, their families, their ideals, while concealing the fractures in their hearts. Her struggle with beauty standards, aging, and illness reflects how society measures women not by depth, but by appearance and productivity. I believe one of her greatest legacies lies in her refusal to surrender her individuality to those expectations. She showed that grace is not the absence of pain. It is the art of carrying it with dignity. There is also a moral reckoning here for the world she helped build. The fact that Hollywood largely ignored her final years is not simply an industry failure. It is a reflection of our collective discomfort with decline, fragility, and the fading of icons. We glorify youth but avert our eyes from mortality. We celebrate stars but neglect the people behind them once the spotlight dims. In my view, the humane response, the solution, should be a cultural shift toward valuing creative elders not for their nostalgia, but for their wisdom and endurance. Artists like Keaton deserve companionship, not abandonment, in their later years. On a personal level, Diane Keaton's story compels me to rethink how we define fulfillment. She had success, admiration, and legacy, yet her greatest peace came not from her art, but from small, ordinary gestures. Making breakfast, planting flowers, asking her children, "What made you happy today?" These moments of simplicity reveal something that modern life often forgets, that meaning is not measured by visibility, but by intimacy. Perhaps, in a way, Keaton discovered too late what most people never do, that love, in its quiet and imperfect form, is the only thing that endures when applause fades. If there is a lesson to take from her life, it is this: live truthfully, even if it costs you comfort. Love deeply, even if it leaves scars. And never confuse solitude with emptiness. Diane Keaton's difference made her an icon, but her humanity made her eternal. In the end, she proved that authenticity is the most beautiful rebellion, and that to live with both courage and tenderness is the highest form of art.